In today's Farm Report, the President and the Republicans in Congress are pushing for the Trade Promotion Authority, though they may differ on how it should be implemented. Cindy Zimmerman with AgriPulse has more.
Trade Promotion Authority is in the spotlight this week after President Obama made it a priority in his State of the Union speech last week.
We should level the playing field. That's why I'm asking both parties to give me Trade Promotion Authority to protect American workers with strong new trade deals from Asia to Europe that aren't just free, but are also fair. It's the right thing to do.
In the Republican response to the State of the Union address, Senator Joni Ernst of Iowa agreed with the president about increasing trade opportunities.
Let's tear down trade barriers in places like Europe and the Pacific. Let's sell more of what we make and grow in America over there so we can boost manufacturing wages and jobs right here at home.
While many Republicans and Democrats seem to agree on TPA, Agriculture Secretary Tom Vilsack expects it will still be a fight in Congress to get it passed.
Where you have people who are very, very progressive and very, very conservative opposing trade, and then you have the folks in the middle who understand that 11 million jobs are connected to trade. Agriculture is certainly positively impacted by exports. And so it's the question of whether or not that moderate middle can control the day in terms of votes, but not basically having this trade discussion be dictated and dominated by the extremes of either political party.
A number of agricultural organizations are urging Congress to grant the president TPA for good reason, says Vilsack.
The reality is that trade currently today positively impacts the bottom line for 300,000 small businesses and companies around the United States, and it helps to employ over 11 million people. Certainly in the ag economy, with record exports in the last 5 or 6 years, certainly supporting nearly 1 million jobs and stabilizing farm income, very, very critically important. In fact, exports are critically important to farm income when you recognize that they represent 30% of gross sales of agricultural products, and that's just about the same amount as the net farm income number, 30%.
Every president since Franklin Roosevelt has had Trade Promotion Authority, sometimes called Fast Track Authority, which allows trade negotiators working on agreements to work out deals that can only be voted up or down by Congress. Reporting for AgriPulse, I'm Cindy Zimmerman.
Smart Agriculture in the 21st Century. That's the title and main theme of this year's Agriculture Department Outlook Forum, coming up February 19th and 20th in Arlington, Virginia. USDA's acting chief economist Rob Johansson says there will be sessions on new farming and marketing technologies that are changing the food and farming business. He says Agriculture Secretary Tom Vilsack is going to host a big panel on innovation, biotech, and big data.
He's got Corey Reed from John Deere. He's got Dr. Robert Fraley from Monsanto. He's got Mary Kay Thatcher from the American Farm Bureau Federation, and he's also got Dr. Robert Suter from IBM. So it'll be really interesting to see what they talk about and what interesting questions they develop in that forum.
Over the two-day event, there will be sessions on remote sensing, using advanced data collection to help grow and market food, and developing so-called climate-smart agriculture, plus the usual Outlook sessions on the various farm commodities and food prices. For more information, use your web browser. Tell it to look for USDA Outlook Forum. You should find everything you need. In Washington, Gary Crawford for the U.S. Department of Agriculture.
The country of origin labeling, or COOL, has been a sticking point for the U.S. and its North American trading partners, Canada and Mexico, since a recent WTO ruling ruled against the U.S.'s rule. Cindy Zimmerman with AgriPulse has more.
The focus in Washington this week has been on potential trade agreements with countries in Asia and Europe. But Congress is also being pressured on another trade issue that impacts the United States' closest trading partners right here in North America. At the recent American Farm Bureau Federation convention, Canadian Cattlemen's Association President Dave Solverson told the media that country of origin labeling is having a significant impact on their industry.
Before country of origin labeling, Canada would routinely export around 1.3 million head of feeder and fed cattle to the U.S. each year. Since COOL was implemented, our live cattle exports has significantly reduced, with the most severe impact on finished fed cattle. The cattle we do export are significantly discounted to compensate for the handling costs for the U.S. feedlots and packers that must segregate them to ensure they label the beef in accordance with the COOL legislation.
Solverson says unless Congress takes some action to change the labeling law, that has been declared non-compliant by the WTO, Canada is ready to move forward with restrictions and tariffs of their own.
The current appeal by USDA will only delay the inevitable, and we expect that by this coming summer, either the U.S. will have to comply or Canada will implement retaliatory tariffs on U.S. exports to our market. And that's not where we want to go. We regret it has come to this, but it seems that without a crisis, the Congress will continue to ignore our pain. Our hope is that they will act soon to prevent Canada from moving to this next phase.
However, a new study done by Auburn University professor Dr. Robert Taylor disputes Canada's claims that Cool has hurt their cattle industry.
There's no credible evidence that Cool directly caused declines in livestock exports to the United States from Canada and Mexico. The period when Cool was implemented coincided with the financial meltdown in the United States and throughout the world. And during that period, there was a lot of uncertainty about demand for meat and other products. And also the Canadian dollar and the Mexican peso fell in value dramatically compared to the U.S. dollar. So there were a lot of changes that went on during that 2008-2009 period when Cool was being implemented. So this charge that Cool is to blame for softening of the demand for meat is largely without merit.
The National Farmers Union says the study shows Congress should stay the course on Cool, but several national livestock organizations are calling for immediate action to assure the law complies with international trade obligations. Reporting for AgriPulse, I am Cindy Zimmerman.
Man-made disasters like the BP oil spill and natural disasters such as Hurricanes Katrina and Ike have spurred ingenuity.
We have a hatchery initiative called the Gulf Oyster Hatchery Initiative, GOHI, G-O-H-I, and it's to establish 2 large-scale commercial hatcheries for oysters on the Gulf Coast.
Chris Nelson is with Bond Secure Fisheries of Alabama and the Gulf Oyster Industry Council.
We've had tremendous shortfalls in production of oysters on the Gulf Coast, and we're trying to find a way to supplement that production through the use of hatcheries and to restore and enhance the public reefs that we have.
On the plus side, says Nelson,
we still have water quality situations in the Gulf that are good enough to have wild harvest of oysters. That's not found in any other region of the country.
Making GOHI now being looked at being replicated in other parts of the country that grow and harvest oysters. For USDA Radio, Susan Carter, Washington, D.C.
China recently banned all imports of U.S. poultry. Cindy Zimmerman with AgriPulse has more on how it affects U.S. trade.
As U.S. Trade Representative Michael Froman appeared before congressional committees this week to stress the need for the president to be granted trade promotion authority, poultry producers were meeting in Atlanta discussing trade issues. USA Poultry and Egg Export Council President Jim Sumner talked about the importance of TPA.
Trade promotion authority is critical if we're going to see any chance of the TPP, the Trans-Pacific Partnership, or TTIP, the U.S.-European Free Trade Agreement, become approved. Actually, I think we got the cart before the horse on this. We should have had TPA before we went out and started the negotiations with these countries so that they have the assurance that they can give us the best deal, that Congress is going to accept it. And that's what TPA is all about. So if we're going to have these expanded free trade agreements, because unfortunately the WTO is not working real well, the Doha round and such, we need to have these trade agreements, and we need Congress to get on board.
Sumner says a big trade issue for the poultry industry right now is the banning of U.S. poultry imports by China and 2 other countries due to the discovery of high pathogen avian influenza in wild birds on the West Coast and now in a California commercial turkey flock.
In none of those instances do we really think a countrywide ban is necessary. When this detection was in one turkey flock in California, which is a state with a poultry industry that is pretty remotely located from our primary poultry production in the rest of the United States. To think that you have to ban all poultry imports from the entire United States is really overreaction.
Sumner says a regionalized approach makes more sense.
One of the problems has been that many countries have not only banned our finished products, but also our breeding stock. And the United States supplies 95% of the primary breeding stock for China. How is China going to continue and grow and develop their industry without the necessary breeding stock? So we're all in this together. Really what they need to do, along with other countries, is regionalize this, as is recommended by the OIE, the World Organization for Animal Health.
Reporting for AgriPulse, I'm Cindy Zimmerman.
How can farmers improve the soil in the next 5 years through conservation management and technological advances? Well, that's the focus of the Soil Health Partnership, of which USDA's Natural Resources Conservation Service is a partner of. Wayne Honeycutt of NRCS recently spoke at the Partnership Soil Health Summit in St. Louis.
There are a number of very innovative farmers across the country. They've been exploring with different things like different types of cover crop mixes. These types of practices are just really crucial. More and more of these practices be developed. And the farmers have been really on the leading edge of looking at a lot of these different cover crop mixes, different ways of seeding them for enhancing soil health.
Practices like cover crops can enrich soil health and increase microbiological activity. That in turn allows soils to have more nutrients and build water holding capacity that protects soils from extreme weather, from droughts to excessive rains. I'm Rod Bain reporting for the U.S. Department of Agriculture in Washington.